I often repeat this phrase, that silence is sometimes the safest course, and a word can become a crime. Can you imagine with me that a single word could cost you your entire life, spent behind bars? To go from a young man in the prime of his life, enjoying one of the most prestigious careers as a fighter pilot, to a prisoner spending his entire existence in a cell because he said no to murder, destruction, and the shedding of blood. Today's story is about a man who stood firm and declared, "No." Ragheed Al-Tatari, the young Syrian pilot who chose to fly against the wind and to land on the ground of truth, no matter how harsh. He is the dean of Syrian prisoners, the elder brother, the great role model, and one of Syria's great heroes, His Excellency, fighter pilot Ragheed Al-Tatari.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
Ragheed Ahmad Al-Tatari was born on December 25, 1954 in Damascus, in an ordinary home, among books, dreams, and an open sky. He loved flying since he was a child. He saw the airplane as freedom, not a weapon, and the sky as a homeland, not a source of orders. In pursuit of his beautiful dream, he joined the Air Force Academy in 1972, graduated in 1975, and subsequently served in various squadrons of the Air Force. He did not know that the greatest battle he would fight would not be against an external enemy, but against the order coming from within. One day, he received an order to bomb. But the target was not an aggressor army. It was a Syrian city filled with children, mothers, and innocent people. The Syrian city of Hama was seething with revolution against the regime of Hafez al-Assad, the former Syrian president and father of the fugitive war criminal Bashar al-Assad. As usual, the criminal regime used repression and killing against the innocents, and thousands fell victim to the terrible massacres in Hama in the 80s. Consequently, orders were issued to him to bomb the city of Hama. But the target was not an aggressor army. It was a Syrian city, filled with children, mothers, and innocent people. At that moment, everyone was silent, except for him. He refused. He said, "The sky shall not be stained with blood." His words were light in utterance, but heavy in price. He was accused of inciting his fellow officers to rebel against the ruling Ba'ath Party regime. He and his military colleagues were brought before a court-martial. He was sentenced to life imprisonment by a military court in a matter of minutes, without a fair trial. He was no longer a pilot, but a number in a cell, a prisoner of conscience in a homeland that punishes the honorable. They imprisoned him in notorious, infamous prisons like Palmyra, Tadmor prison, and Sednaya prison. Nearly 44 years of imprisonment. In dark, sunless cells, the principled and honorable pilot lived on. Ragheed taught himself to see the light in a crumb of bread, to make a brush from a bone, and a poem from pain. He would sculpt smiling faces from bread and plant the meaning of life in the hearts of his fellow inmates. He never forgot flying, but this time he flew with his soul. Between the iron walls, he was freer than his tormentors. Those who shared his imprisonment described him as the elder brother, possessing a lofty spirit despite the agony. He would lighten the load for the other prisoners by organizing chess tournaments using pieces made from breadcrumbs. Then, in 2011, the glorious Syrian revolution began. Those in the prisons knew little, save for some small news passed on by new inmates amidst the fear of the jailers. 13 more years passed until 2024, when prisons opened, cells were shattered, and the dean of prisoners was carried upon shoulders. He was not weakened, nor was he crushed by time. Instead, his heart was filled with more light, and his name with greater glory and honor. He had become a hero for Syria and for all Syrians. People shared his story, and everyone called for a fitting tribute. Among the first to initiate this were the people of his very city, Hama, the beautiful city for which he sacrificed and shared their pain for 44 years. They carried him on their shoulders, and Sheikh Muaz Raihan presented him with a gilded sword in the great mosque, amidst massive crowds chanting his name. When international media outlets reported the heroism of the Syrians, nations rushed to honor him. Turkey was the first, where President Recep Tayyip Erdogan honored him and granted him the International Ihsan Award. The international recognitions continued thereafter. When Ragheed Al-Tatari was released after more than 4 decades, he carried no hatred, but rather wisdom. He said to those who met him, "They took my freedom, but they did not take my humanity." And he smiled, as if all those years were a small price for his right to remain human, and not a murderous beast who amuses himself by piloting an aircraft, dropping fire on the innocents and the destitute below. The story of Ragheed Al-Tatari is not just about prison or injustice. It is about choice. To choose what is right when the wrong is easier. To say no when everyone says yes. To stand alone, yet remain upright. For true principles are not measured by the number of those who follow them, but by the number of those who endure for their sake. The body may be imprisoned, but if the conscience takes flight, no chains can ever reach it. And perhaps Ragheed Al-Tatari was not merely a pilot in the sky, but a pilot in the sky of values, those values that never fall. Thus, his story remains a spark of light and hope, for all who believe that a principle is the most precious wing a person can possess. The true test is the choice. So, what is your choice? I await your answer in the comments.